Good afternoon and welcome to BizTech's Asia Pacific Cybersecurity Show. Now, every week we update the region on the latest threats and incidences to help you protect yourselves better, whether you're an individual or a small or large corporation. Now, joining the conversation as always to bring an expert lens to the show is my co-host, Benjamin Ang. He's the head of Cyber and Homeland Defence at the Center of Excellence for National Security at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. Ben, as always, great to have you on the show.
Hey, Brian, always happy to be here.
Now, Ben, for a start, it's easy to say that this show is all about threats and incidences, but for a change, let's put some good news in the spotlight this week. Now, we're going to start with a story out of Thailand, which came out of the Bangkok Post. Now, the Office of the National Digital Economy and Society Commission, or ONDE in Thailand, has signed an MOU with 9 organizations to create digital volunteers to promote accessibility and understanding of digital technology for local communities in Thailand. Now, that's a very interesting goal that they have of really having one ambassador in every village. Now, one of the things which I thought was fascinating was the fact that it is really something that seems to be a great example of a digital inclusion initiatives. Now, Ben, could you share with the audience then what this is all about?
Brian, this is really good news, like you said, because if they succeed with their 500 digital community centers and probably another 1,700 centers to be developed in the next 5 years, then they're going to be able to bring the benefits of the digital economy to the whole population, even rural populations, if it works out right. And it's so that everybody is going to have equal opportunities to have access to digital services. And part of it also will be to educate people along the way on how to protect themselves and how to stay safe online. And this being able to not just depend on companies to do it, or not just depend on the government to do it, but really a whole of society effort as volunteers who can serve as mediators. And this will really help people to be able to expand, get benefits, and also have ownership.
Now, one of the key things, I think, if you look at the broader picture around this, it's really Thailand's way of trying to be a more digital nation. Because one of the key things is they're currently, in terms of the world digital competitiveness, they're ranked number 40 in 2022, which is down 2 places from the previous year. Their goal in this initiative is really to get themselves in a top 30 position.
And why not, right? If you can actually harness the efforts of, and they're estimating here 300,000 villages, or 1 volunteer per 4 villages, that's a lot of difference. You don't get that kind of manpower from any single company or any single government. But if you're really going into the population and harnessing that ability to help that digital transformation, to really give people the opportunities, I think that's really powerful.
And also, sorry, go ahead, Ben.
I mean, getting down to the communities is really where it's at, especially to help people to understand, to navigate where all the different things that are in the digital economy and the cyber risks. Like Singapore's IMDA, Infocom Media Development Authority, actually has a digital seniors program, right? Seniors Go Digital. And there's digital community hubs in every community center to help seniors to navigate all these things like apps and security and phishing and all these kind of things. It's really important.
And Ben, as we look at this, one of the key things and I hope this initiative is very, very successful, because other countries in ASEAN and also in the broader Asia Pacific region can learn from these initiatives, not only in Thailand, but as you mentioned with the Seniors Initiative in Singapore. Now, speaking of Singapore, Ben, I want to talk about a different level of people then. You were talking about seniors earlier, but In your backyard, there is something called a Cyber Youth Singapore. Now, its vision is to empower young Singaporeans towards sustainability of Singapore from a digital perspective. And its mission is really to engage youths to be interested in technology, to develop passionate and all rounded professionals for our digital future. And this is supposed to cut across all backgrounds and socioeconomic groups. So give us some insights, Ben, into what this thing is all about in more detail.
Happy to, Brian. Full disclosure, I happen to be an advisor to the Cyber Youth Singapore, CYS. Okay, but I'm a volunteer. So I just want to put it out there that I am connected to them. But what I was impressed about this group was, and why I agreed to be an advisor to them, is they are a fully youth-run organization. Young people, right, who are taking ownership of this themselves, and they come together, and they've been through different challenges of how to structure the organization, and now they've got a fully run charity, and they are out there and they are talking to other youth, and they've got different streams of work, like a cyber youth collective, right, that helps other youth on career development, linking them up with industry, and they've got backing and sponsorship from all the top cyber industry and the tech industry and even the banks in Singapore. So that's the collective part of it, where they build career paths. Then there's also the youth academy, where they are going out to other youths and teaching them things like how to use technology safely. And they've gone into the schools, and that's so valuable, because can you imagine the difference between somebody our age going into a school is, oh, it's just another teacher, right? It's, old
Yes.
guy telling us. But somebody near their age being able to connect with the kids and say, hey, it's not just the old people telling you to be careful online because they're scared. We are telling you this is how you can maximize your enjoyment of being online while being safe. So I really find that it's a fantastic organization, the reach they have, the commitment they have, and then the way they were able to not stay in the youth ghetto, but to link up, to connect with policymakers, with corporate sponsors, and with academia as well, to really to do something. So I think that I was inspired when I saw that.
And Ben, again, just as the earlier example in Thailand, this is something that perhaps the rest of ASEAN should take note of, because I don't think there are similar initiatives in places like Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia, for example, I know for sure. So that's quite an interesting thing. I'm going to watch out for the Cyber Youth Singapore a little bit more closely. Now, moving
Maybe we
on
should
to,
invite the CEO on the show.
and I think that will be a good idea on our future show. Now, moving on to Malaysia, since I mentioned Malaysia, we now have an issue of job scams under the spotlight, where on Valentine's Day, the Global Human Resources Solutions Agency, Randstad Malaysia, issued a warning that scammers were using the firm's company name to set up fraudulent social media accounts to target members of the public in Malaysia with advertised jobs. Now, Ben, tell us about this, and how do they do this?
I'm sad to say it is so easy to impersonate anybody on these social media advertisements. And I don't think I'm actually teaching people to commit any crimes, because I think this is pretty much known in the circuit that you or I could probably run a sponsored advertisement with the name of XYZ famous company, but with our contact info. And a lot of platforms just wouldn't bat an eyelid because they don't check. So we advertise ourselves as XYZ company, or maybe not exactly the name, almost the name that people find familiar, but with our contact info. Then we start getting all these unfortunate souls who think they are applying for a legitimate job with a well-known company, and actually they're coming to us and we're scamming them. So not us. I'm just saying, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So what Randstad tells the public to do is basically be vigilant when using social media to avoid similar scams. It also requested users to report any suspicious activity that they see on social media directly via their website or mobile app. They also stress that any job offers made by Randstad employees will always include an employment contract that will only be sent to an individual from a business email account at randstad.com.my. So I think this is really something, as you said, really simple to do. And for us as individuals, we need to watch out and not be scammed by this.
Absolutely. Always check that it is actually coming from the official email domain of the company. Now, having said that, you can also fake return email addresses. So you've really got to be very diligent about it. I would say that if you can do one step further and it's an agency you haven't done business with, go to their official site and try and contact them from there and says, hey, is this you? Just to be safe.
Now, on that note, Ben, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian. Always a pleasure.
Now, that's it for this week's APAC Cybersecurity Show. We've been speaking to Benjamin Ang, Head of Cyber and Homeland Defence at the Centre of Excellence for National Security at the S. Rajaratnam School of International Studies at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore on BizTech's Asia Pacific Cybersecurity Show. I'm Brian Fernandez. This interview will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our social media platforms. It'll also be on our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.